Hi, welcome to episode 4 of our series Beekeeping from Day 1. So today we have received our nucleus colony and we're going to be transferring them into the hive. Now this is going to be the hive that we're going to follow on for the whole year, so if you'd like to check that out, subscribe to the series. So we've received our nucleus colony and we've placed them in exactly the location that we want the hive to be. We've left them for half an hour just to settle down. We've opened the door and we've let them fly. So when the bees arrive, they arrive with this open mesh in the top that helps them keep nice and cool during transport. What we need to do is to cover that over. Now we can use anything to cover it over. It can be a piece of plywood, it can be a piece of plastic, anything just to stop the wind and the rain and the weather getting in there. So we're going to use one of these lids. They come from Payne's, from Simon the Beekeeper, and they fit perfectly over the top. Okay, so we're going to leave these for 24 hours now. Now, in the event that the weather's going to be bad tomorrow, they'll be fine. They can stay in there for a few days. Just as soon as you can, as soon as the weather allows, do the transfer, give them that space, keep them happy. The reason we need to leave them for 24 hours is because these bees don't know where home is yet. So as you can see, there's lots of orientation flights going on. The bees are leaving the entrance, they're flying in figure of eights in front of the hive, and they're learning where home is. If we just dive straight in and open the roof, bees would fly out in a fluster and they wouldn't have orientated. They wouldn't know exactly where home is. Now, we've got nothing more to do for 24 hours other than just grab a cup of coffee, sit and watch the bees and enjoy them. Right, so we're back at the apiary. It's a bit of a windy day. It's been 24 hours since we've placed this nuc box here. So let's take a look. So lots of activity at the entrance. You can see the bees are orientated. They've been out, they found the pollen. They're looking good. Right, so the first thing we have to do is to move this hive just over to one side. We can pop it off to a side, either way. We're going to place this one here. We're then going to grab the new hive and place it in exactly the same location as this one. Now the reason we need to do that is because all of these bees have orientated to this spot, so they know this spot as home. And that's why we need to get it as close as possible as we can to where the entrance of this one is. So let's get on with it. Right, so before we start, there's two things we need: our smoker and our trusty hive tool. So what we're going to do is move this colony, this hive, just over to one side. We can move it off, but I'm just going to move this one over. I'm going to place the new hive in the exact location as this one, the entrance facing the same direction. That way the bees that have orientated to this spot know exactly where home is. So let's get on with it. Okay, so our nucleus colonies, they come with 6 standard national brood frames. This is a 12 frame Abelo polyhive. So that means we need 6 additional deep brood frames. So we're just going to take 3 of them out and place them off to one side just to give us the space. Okay, so the first things first. We've lifted the roof off and we just need to check that the queen's not on the roof. She's not normally on here, she's normally going to be on the brood frames. But we just need to check to make sure that she's not there. So I can't see her, but we're just going to pop that off to one side and keep it safe. Now, the first thing to note is how calm the bees are. But we need to, every time we go into a hive, just get ourselves into the right frame of mind. We need to be calm and collected, and we need to go in with a purpose. Our purpose for this inspection is to transfer the bees from this box into this box. So we'll take a look for the queen, but we're not going to stress if we don't find her. The sole purpose of this job is just to make sure that every bee leaves this box and ends up in this box. Right, so we've got our smoker and we've got our hive tool, but we want to use the smoke as little as possible. At the moment, the bees are nice and calm, they're nice and chilled, they're the bees we like, they're the bees we breed. So we're only going to use this when we have to. Now, what you'll notice is my actions will be smooth and calm. Now, if I'm over the top of them, if I'm aggressive, what you often find is that the bees will jump up at you. They don't like quick sudden movements. Now these bees are super chilled, so they're not going to do it today. We need to be in the right frame of mind, and we need to have one purpose in our mind for this manipulation. Every bee from this box into this one. Now I'm using a J hook. Now what you must definitely not do is put the J hook under there and start levering away. The bees will propolis these frames down together, and propolis is super sticky. So in the event that they're stuck together, if we start levering, we'll end up snapping the lugs. So what we must first do is just pop the hive tool in this way round and just gently prise them apart, just to break any propolis seals. There we go. Now the first one is always difficult to get out, so for this is why I use the J hook. Place it under the lug and just gently ease it up, just to lift it up. There we go. Smooth action, making sure we don't roll any bees, making sure we don't bang the sides. And there we go. Now I'm going to take a quick look for the queen, just so I can show her to the camera. But I'm not going to go crazy. I can't see her on this one. And we'll just pop that in the box. Now what's really important is that we make sure that the tops of the bars, the little arms, push together to maintain the right bee space. Nice and gentle. Now the other thing you'll notice is as I'm taking the frames out, I'm putting them back in the same orientation as they came out the box. The bees have laid out their nest in the order they want it in, so the bees know best, so it's important that we maintain that same structure. The queen in here is a 2024 queen, so we should see a green dot queen running around here somewhere. But like I said, the purpose of this inspection isn't to find the queen, it's just to transfer the bees. The bees are still nice and calm. It's super windy up here today. This apiary really is in a windy spot. Loads of brood. Loads of sealed brood. Loads of brood in all stages. And I'm starting to see the odd bee with a telltale sign of yellow pollen from the oilseed rape fields just behind us. Ah, there's the queen. So this is 2024 Carniolan queen. Look at that. Nice juicy queen. Right, that's perfect. So now we found the queen, we can see that she's on the middle of the frame. Now this makes it really easy. We can pop that in the box and we can follow the queen down, and we can make sure that we just snug her in gently and that she's not touching any of those sidebars. So these are what I mean by the sidebars, these ones here. So we want to make sure that they're all snugged up together, nice and tight, to maintain that bee space. Okay, and the last frame goes in. There we go. So you notice we haven't even used a smoke yet. Now, you'll know when you need to use a smoke. The bees will start telling you that they're a little bit agitated. They'll start vibrating their wings. You'll start hearing a more audible buzz. That's when you know just to give them just a gentle puff. You can also use it for moving bees down off of the side of walls. But it's super windy today, so we're going to struggle. So, now you notice there's still a good handful of bees in there. Now in this instance, we found the queen, we know she's in there. But if you haven't, just check inside, check on the walls. We can't see her. But we still need to get these bees in the box. So what I'm going to do first is just put the rest of the frames in. Again, nice and gentle. Just pushing the side arms up together to maintain that bee space. There we go, and we're in. Right. So this stick float, that's in the feeder. That floats in the syrup to help the bees swim or to stop them drowning inside the syrup. So we'll just move that off to one side. Now the easiest way to do this is just to put the box where there's no bees, and with one good tap, there we go. Just brush off the remaining bees. Still a few more in there. I'm going to give that another tap. I'm going to make sure that there's no bees that we're going to tap onto. There we go. So there we go. Every bee is out of the box now. There's none underneath. There's one underneath. We'll just brush them in. Right. That box is done. Now that box smells of home. So what we have to do is close up the entrance. Just close up the entrance and we'll move that off to one side. Okay, then the last thing is the lid. Still lots of bees. We'll just take another look for the queen. Can't see her. We'll just remove some of these extra bits of comb they've built up. There we go. Right, same again. Just make sure there's no bees that we're going to squash. And a good tap. There we go. Let's pop that on top of the old Nucleus colony. And there we go. Now I've just realised that I've left the door closed. Very important to make sure that the door is open. Right, now I'll just see if you can hear this. Okay, there we go. That's a sign the bees are just starting to get a little bit agitated. Let's take a look. Might be able to see that they're just starting to fan their wings a little bit. So that's a sign that they're telling us we've had enough of this now. So we're just going to smoke them down just to move them off the top. Don't want to squash any bees when we put the crown board on. Come along, ladies. And whilst we can take the opportunity, I'm just going to scrape some of the spare wax off the top of the bars. So when we push the crown board on, we don't squash any bees. Right, there we go. So let's pop the crown board on and just move any bees off the side gently so we don't squash any. And there we go. Right, so we always recommend that you feed a new colony, especially when it's just been transferred over. These ladies have got a whole lot of work to do. They've got all of those frames to build out, and they've got all of that sealed brood just about to emerge. There's going to be a lot of hungry mouths to feed. So the thing I always do with feeders is just to put a few bits of twigs, bits of grass, just anything inside the contact part. It would help if I put it the right way around. Inside the contact part where the bees are actually going to come up and get into that syrup. It really helps the bees to avoid drowning in the syrup. Syrup is thick, sticky stuff, and unless you put something in there, you'll come back and you'll find a whole load of drowned bees. It's not very nice. There we go. Right, I'll just grab some syrup. Close that side up. Now at this stage we can't really go too crazy with the syrup. We don't want them to backfill the brood nest, we just want to encourage them to build out that wax. So we've got some 1:1 sugar syrup. This is the last of our winter feed, so it's got a little bit of Hive Live. Don't really need Hive Live this time of year, but it's the last of the syrup, so we're going to use it up. Okay, I'm going to close that lid down, and we're just going to make sure that all of the bees are out of here, and then we'll put the roof on. Finally, we'll just strap it down, especially in this location. We're in a very windy spot, but I do always recommend to use a strap. So there we go. That's all the bees are transferred into this hive. You can see there's a little bit of confusion on the front door. The hive has changed, home's changed, it looks different, it smells different. It's in a slightly different entrance. The old door was somewhere around here. This is a slightly different door. So lots of the bees are just landing here and thinking, whoa, what's going on? This used to be my front door and now it's changed. But they'll make their way in there. Now, one thing that is worth doing at this point is just to look around the hive, just to check that there's no clumps of bees on the floor. That's quite often a sign that the queen might have fallen out. You'll find a little ball with loads of bees trying to keep her warm. If that's the case, as long as you pop her up and pick her in straight away, you can't leave it a few hours, straight away, then they'll be fine. But if you follow this process, nice and steady, you'll make sure she's in there. So what's next with this hive? Well, we're going to follow this one along throughout the year. So we're on a site where there's oilseed rape, and they're going to boom in the next few weeks. They've got loads of sealed brood, it's about to emerge, and this box is going to start expanding, and they're going to draw out all these combs. We've just given them a little bit of food just to get them moving, just to help them along, and we're going to check back in a week's time and see where they are. And that's what I suggest you do. You can come down every morning whenever you want and just sit and enjoy, watch the bees, see what they're doing, see what they're foraging on, check the colours of the pollen coming in and out, and enjoy them. But we do not go in this hive for at least another week. Now, what we suggest is that during the swarm season, so April, May, June, July, it's weekly inspections. So we're going to cover that each week, and we're going to follow this hive through the season. After that, once we come out of the main swarm season, then you can go down to two weeks before inspections, or every 2 weeks for inspections. Once you get into August, into September, really it's down to once a month. Fantastic. What's not to like? Happy bees. They're flying with purpose. They're out foraging, building up for the summer. It's going to be a good colony. So what do we expect from this hive throughout the year? Well, we're going to run this one to make honey. So we're going to target a nice honey crop, and we're also going to deal with swarming, the inevitable swarming that's likely to happen in a few weeks' time. We're going to show you how to manage that through the Nucleus method. We're going to use the polynuc that the bees came in, and we're going to show you how to create a second colony so that you can overwinter with 2 colonies. Now, we always recommend that there's 2 colonies. Ideally, you want 2 colonies so that you've got a backup, and also at certain times of the year, there's things you can do with a second colony that helps one another. So for instance, you might be suspicious that one of the colonies has gone queenless, but you won't really know that. You might not be able to find a queen, but there could be one in there that you haven't seen. There could be a virgin. The colony still might think there's a queen in there. And if you go and introduce a queen at that point, they wouldn't accept her. And the way you do that is by taking a test frame of eggs out of one colony and popping them into another. And then you can see from the response whether they draw emergency queen cells or whether they cap it over into normal worker brood, whether they think they're queenless. As well as that, you can go into winter with 2 colonies. That increases your chances of coming into spring next year with at least 1 colony alive. And that gives you a choice in the spring next year. You either expand your apiary, go to 2 full hives, or you can choose which queen you want to keep. You can kill the queen you don't want to keep, and you can merge them together and go through the cycle again. That's kind of the whole art of beekeeping, really. It's easy to make splits throughout the year. The real art is keeping the colonies down to the manageable number that you want. We'll show you how to do that. Other things we're going to see this year, we're going to show you how to do pest management, control for varroa. We're going to show you, hopefully, fingers crossed, how to do a honey harvest. We're going to show you how to prepare your bees for winter, how to go into winter, and how to come out of the spring next year with a nice healthy colony. After all, that's all everyone wants. I'm going to show you how we do it. There's loads of different ways. You guys feel free to follow along, and if you've got a nucleus colony at this time of year, then your colony should be around the same sort of place this one is, depending on when yours arrive. We're filming this in April. This is an overwintered nuc. If you're getting a spring nuc, you'll be about 4 weeks behind this one. And if you're getting a summer nuc, again, 4 weeks behind. Right, that's it. The transfer's done. It's gone smoothly. The bees seem happy. They've already settled down. I'm just going to come back with a coffee in the evening, admire the bees, and then we'll check back in a week's time and see how that brood nest has started to expand. If you want to follow along, hit the like, hit the subscribe, and you'll get notified whenever one of these videos gets released. That's it for now. See you next week.